Bonafide Hustler here.
Raking profit.
Frank Shamrock, the legend.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so you guys know out there in YouTube land that we do these green room hangouts, and we're in the 34th session of our hangouts. But we titled this one question mark because it was kind of tough to get our guest on, but we did. And so right here, before I introduce myself, I'm going to introduce the guest first, and he can give you a little couple tidbits of information of who he is and how you might know him already. So go ahead, Frank, take it away real quick.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I was the first UFC middleweight champion, pioneer of cage fighting, the sport of mixed martial arts. I became a broadcaster, entrepreneur, promoter, businessman, and now I function as a semi-retired licensee, of sorts.
So that's cool. So we're about to have an interesting 50 minutes, 1 hour of talking to Frank about random cool business stuff and ideas. But I'm the Bonafide Hustler. I reside in Austin, Texas, and what I do for a living is I flip stuff I find from garage sales, thrift stores, pawn shops, anything I can get my hands on to make an extra buck. I throw it on Amazon like eBay, Amazon, my antique booth, sell it to local people on Craigslist. It's a lot of fun if you check out my book, which we don't have to show that right now because we want to get to our guest, but you know what the book is called, and I'll toss it over to my co-host, Rakin.
What's going on, everybody? I'm Steve with Raking Profit. I've got a YouTube channel as well, just like the Bonafide, talking about buying and selling, business, motivation, making money, and having a fun time doing it because it really could be a good time making money and enjoying your business. But been doing this for about 2 years, learning new stuff every single day, always striving forward, falling down but getting back up. That's what's important. But really excited for tonight's show. Thanks again for coming on, Frank. And yeah, I'm pumped up. Let's do this.
Cool. Okay, so we're going to be talking to Frank, and if you do have a question for Frank Shamrock, you can go into the YouTube video itself. This guy named Sumaraba just now commented, "Wow, I was just saying that guy looks a lot like Frank Shamrock." So that was comment number 1 already. So we're going to be looking at the YouTube feed, guys, at the very bottom. So if you ever see me looking at this side of my screen, that's what I'm looking at. So it says, Chris, the feed is broken, help. Oh, never mind. Maybe that's someone's internet problem. Okay, so we're going to be looking at the comment feed constantly throughout the night, but let's get into Frank Shamrock, what he's all about. So for people that don't know about you, right, you are a businessman at heart, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And did that what came first? Was it the fighting and the MMA, or was the business part of you always part of you before the whole thing started?
That was always part of me. My stepdad Joe was a very hardworking guy, and kind of a blue collar, displaced Irishman guy, and he instilled a work ethic. My very first job was 8 years old. I was mowing lawns because he thought, hey, you mow lawns, you make money. And I brought home my earnings. I was all excited. I think I mowed like 6 or 7 lawns, and he literally sat me down and gave me the lesson. It's like, okay, use my mower. That'll cost you $1. Use my gas, so that'll cost you $1. Use my oil, so that'll cost you $1. And he went down the list, and he charged me all these things, and it just made sense. I was like, wow. It's like, look, son, everything costs if you want to make money. And then it just never went away from me. Even when fighting came along, when every opportunity came along, it's just this lesson was there. That it costs, but there's value, and if you work at it, you can increase the value.
So one of those things that I think I'm hearing you saying is like sometimes, well, not sometimes, many times, to make money, you have to put some money forward, though, right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. After you were mowing those lawns when you were 8 years old, so you rented basically all the stuff, but what happened after you got the money for mowing the lawn? What kind of lesson did your dad teach you at that point?
Well, I just instantly saw there was a value lesson. I thought I was going to keep all the money. I was like, wow, this is tremendous. And then my dad was like, no, you don't understand. I own these things. And you are leasing them from me, so you can make money. And even as a young boy, I was like, wow, okay. So I got to, share. I got to initiate. I got to, manipulate to sort of make it work. And it was just a life lesson that every time I got into a business situation, I remembered that it costs something to do something. There's values on either side, and they have to be respected. and it's just a course of business. It doesn't matter how you do your business, the values still have to be respected and appreciated and sort of dealt with.
Yeah. So also, like when you were in that situation, you foresaw, $3 to sacrifice to get X amount per lawn, right? Or $3 to sacrifice and I would make, right? You kind of understood that really early in life, right?
Yeah, it was simple. It was $5 a lawn, and it cost me basically $1.50 to do it.
That's amazing. That's crazy to hear that an MMA fighter comes, from that kind of like educational background so young. That's amazing.
Yeah. My dad was an appliance repairman, so he was like, "Look, none of this stuff is you got to pay for all this stuff." So it was just one of those life lessons, and I don't think he was really delivering it with the intention of creating an entrepreneur, but he did, and it never left me. Every time I did business or did something, I was always looking at what's the value. And how do I create it, or move it, or support it, or how do I make value out of this for everybody?
Yeah, that's pretty cool because that can come down to like when you're at the edge of your deathbed, right? And you have a legacy, right, that you're leaving behind. You've helped thousands of people across the world, through maybe discovering what you did do, like mixed martial arts, but you also have created some tangible things that will stay on the bookshelves throughout history, right? You have these two things with you. Will you hold them up to the screen real quick? I'm just curious to see these two books that you've actually been a part of.
Oh, the books, yeah. So the first book I wrote is MMA for Dummies, which is like, come on.
This is amazing, guys. This is completely amazing.
Yeah, and then the second one was a real passion and labor of love that I turned into a movie, which was my autobiography, Uncaged. That's me when I'm just totally ripped out. These are products that were essential to the development of my brand, essential to my personal exploration and expression as an artist, and then there were assets that we all created as a company, and then monetized and controlled, and these are the things that finance my lifestyle, my future, and my family's future. They're all assets that, because I created and built a brand, I was then able to monetize more assets off my brand.
That's good. It's actually kind of what we're trying to do with the Green Room, which is the place where Young is and College Picker, me and Ray can reside. We have our thing that we're building as well. So we are definitely understanding where you're coming from on that. We would love to take it to your level, but we're working on it. That's what we're doing. So for the people out there that now start having an idea who you are that might not have known, how can they pick up those books? Where do you find those books besides maybe a Barnes & Noble? Like, do you find them at, what's the easiest way for someone to attain your books? Is it Amazon?
Yeah, probably Amazon.com or my website, frankshamrock.com. And then it's also in ebooks. Everything's in the ebook. So I recommend you embrace the technology and toss the book unless you got a long plane ride. Yeah, the books. So the books for me were really to sell and to continue to promote a larger idea. It's about martial arts. It's about martial arts participation and really the values socially and financially and culturally that we can get from martial arts participation and martial arts education. So that's really why the books are written, and to continue my legacy and to continue to build revenue for our family.
Now, Frank, have you always wanted to write a book? Was that a dream of yours when you were younger, or as you became older and progressed with the businesses and the martial arts and everything, is this something that just spontaneously happened? What's your take on that?
Well, very few things spontaneously happen for me. They're all planned and part of a larger picture. Mm-hmm. The Dummies book happened out of accident. Like, this woman contacted me. She's like, "Look, I'm a book agent, and I was preparing for a fight, so I made her send me an outline and literally I made her do all the work and dog and ponied it. I didn't know she had Wiley who wanted to do the book. I would have said yes if she had just told me that. But so I made an educated business decision and had her do all that explorative work and present a valuable asset. Once I saw what it was a no-brainer that we were going to do it. But on the autobiography book, I always knew as a kid I'd write something, because I lived in that world. I grew up in a home of abuse and just trauma and incarceration, and I lived in another world of books. So I always knew there'd be a moment where I could express myself and impact a generation in writing, a powerful book. When that moment came, I was like, it's time to do the book.
Cool, man. Well, the book looks amazing. I mean, we've all seen that Dummies book, so that is like, there's everything for dummies. So it's amazing that you get to have your picture on that one. Like, that's really cool, man.
Yeah, it's
Uh,
totally ridiculous. And then I never even thought of like, that responsibility until I was writing the book. Then I'm like, oh, okay, wait a minute. There's a whole bunch of guys that've never seen it that are going to be like, this is what it is. Like, wow, this is, and have a full impression. So it was a unique moment for me to sort of take some responsibility and kind of, try to drive the sport, forward in the masses. Because the people picking up this book, they know nothing. They're just clueless. They're like, oh, I heard about that. That's interesting.
Interesting. So, like for someone like us, for example, that we are, we formed a group and we are trying to help people that don't know much about the art of, reselling, or they might be in the intermediate stage, or some of them are even expert stages of hustling. So we formed a group, and there are people in this one group. I have Raken and I and Young. We have a huge passion to help people out to figure out that there's an answer besides corporate America and making money, that if you trust and you believe in yourself, you can get a lot of things done out there in the USA. We happen to live in a very, very free country, let's face it, right? Where, I mean, the only difference between you and the millionaire is the way the millionaire kind of thinks, and sometimes the opportunity that comes across to the millionaire, and the way that the millionaire carries themselves through the public eye. Like, they don't, they don't slander anybody, they don't entertain haters, they just treat people with respect. Like you said before in the interview, it's all about respect. Was that something that you learned early on when you were a child, or at what point did you realize, like, this is one of the most important things to learn in life? Before money, before anything, where did you learn that part of it?
Well, the first time I learned it was, first time I learned it was when I was in prison, and I really understood like the culture of not having anything, and really, I didn't realize I was participating in the culture until I was like, sitting back and going, wow, you can't leave, and it's a bunch of, crazy people, and it wasn't until that I had that sort of enlightenment that I realized that, I needed to sort of change. I needed to change what I was doing. And then when martial arts came along, it gave me a path, and it gave me a fabric, a culture. Then I could go back on, some solid teachings, and, there was sort of a larger, vision in place. Before I had the martial arts vision, and before I, got stuck and couldn't really get out of what I was in trouble of, I didn't really have anything to do in life. It wasn't until the opportunity presented itself. I always knew I'd be a world champion at something. As a boy, I always knew that was my moment. That's what I was going to do. And the minute it came along, I grabbed on and killed everybody, because that was my moment.
This sound, like, as soon as you said that, I was reminded of that time where Eminem is like puking on stage, and then he finally goes up in the movie and he just blasts everyone to bits. It reminds me of exactly what you just said.
Because that's what it's about. I mean, it's really facing your fears. It's really embracing what you want. And until you know who you are and what you want, then you don't even know what you're doing. And I think a lot of young entrepreneurs, they don't even know where they're going. They just want something. I want money. I want recognition. I want these things. But it's like, until you sit down and define who you are and what your mission is and where you're going, and kind of have daily reflection and personal development in that, you just won't. Because when the time comes, you won't recognize it. You'd be too wrapped up in doing whatever. So for me, business is a lot about, or at least was for me, getting my life in order and understanding what I want. Because what am I really working for? What are my real dreams and desires and passions and goals and roles that I want to play in life? I don't want to have a boss. I don't want anybody telling me what to do. It's just, unless it's my wife, I don't want to hear it. It doesn't happen. You know what I mean? It doesn't need to happen in my life. I can do anything I want because of the brand and the life and the business that I've built.
That's good. So you pursued that brand, that life, with integrity after some of your trials and tribulations early in life. You realized, this is who I want to become. Did you ever see? You said you saw yourself as a world champion before being a world champion. So describe to me, like, how not burning bridges and treating people with respect, how do you become that world champion when people maybe you have to make a name for yourself or people are trying to, slander your name? Like, how do you go about your days? Try to take us back to that time in your life when you had to overcome every single person that doubted you, maybe even yourself at some points. Take us back to that time and like how did you overcome that? Was it a daily thing you did? Did you have to meditate? Did you have to have a coach always there with you telling you this is the way to the path to righteousness? Like how did you do that?
Well, for me, I had all that time in prison, so I had this great, introspective time to sort of learn myself. And I, while it's a path, it's very challenging. I recommend you incarcerate yourself for years. Learn who you are and what you want in life. So when I got out, I was thoroughly, knowing what I wanted. I had no skills, I had no education, I had no opportunity, but I knew what I wanted, and I realized the process I was using and the things I had learned, the tools I had learned, they weren't going to be successful. I saw the proof in front of me. So I educated myself as best I could, and then as soon as fighting came along, and it came along by accident, I just jumped onto it, and I embraced the opportunity. It was always my passion. It was always my childhood passion. And I think that's where a lot of people go wrong in business. A lot of people are running businesses or doing something because it makes them money, and not because it's their passion, or not because what it's going to do is going to serve a need or help somebody. So to wake up each morning and to go grind it, that doesn't feel good. But to wake up each morning and to tackle the thing you're most passionate about in the world and to help people, that feels like heaven.
So I'm taking it that's exactly what you're living right now, huh?
Yeah, that's right. So it's like, and I've been doing that for years, but because I was able to, clearly define what my future was. And then every single day I get up and I plan it, I review it, I make sure we're on course, and all of my decisions are based on that. So I can't do something wrong. I can't do a bad deal. I can't screw somebody. First, to be against my moral fiber, and then second, to be against the master vision. Because what if I have to sit down with that guy in 2 years and negotiate a television contract? That'll stop my vision. So for me, once I got martial arts and I was like, wow, being a criminal doesn't work. Here's a whole nother mindset and culture and, visionary process of personal development, that'll guide me to where I want to be. Plus, it's exactly what I want to be.
Yeah.
So that, and I think a lot of people, they haven't defined who they are. They don't know. So it's like you go to work and you start out swinging, 2 or 3 rounds in, you're like, wait a minute, is this what I want to do? And that's when all the stuff sets in, the doubt and the fear and, well, I don't know what to, the paralysis. When you know what you want and you know what you're doing, there's no doubt. And everyone goes, well, we got to go with him because he knows what he wants and what he's doing. It's organic.
Frank, what's going on?
Hey, how you doing, buddy?
How's it going, Frank? Hey, sorry I'm late, man. You know how the Bay Area traffic is, buddy.
Oh, yeah.
It's good to see you, brother.
Yeah.
So yeah, Yang, we have been interviewing your friend for the past 20 minutes. And he's taken us from mowing a lawn to getting incarcerated all the way to obeying anything the wife says. So
it's a good, healthy life.
Oh, that sounds like it, man. I actually looked at your Twitter before the show and everything, and I see you on a paddleboard, and I'm like, okay, this guy knows what life's all about. I see what's going on. So very interesting. I mean, you're a big fan of outdoors too. I kind of gathered that as well.
Yeah.
What's something? So I was going to ask you, like, what's one of the things that you do on a daily basis? You say you do things every single day that makes sure that you get to a goal. Do you have your goal clearly defined anywhere, written out, or
everywhere?
Are there things around your house that are just like blatantly showing you, like, you got to go here. This is the way to go. Like, how do you do that?
Well, my whole life is built around what I want. Because there's no question about what I'm going for. So. Most people get up and go to work in the morning. I go about my life because my life is monetizing this brand that I built and expanding it and expanding martial arts. So on a day-to-day basis, I wake up each and every morning. I fix my spine and align my body, and then I meditate and I plan my day, and then I usually hike, each every day for an hour, and I commune with nature, and then I do some work, and usually that work is helping people or building a bigger vision of something that supports, something social or fun or financial or whatever. But I've been blessed to be at a financial position where now I want my business ventures to help the world, like to change things. You know, because it's like, why not? Right? If you have
Yeah.
the resources, why not? Like, why not try to, change something or help?
Right. Well, what gives you more kicks? Does like maybe suppose I mean talking to people your age or people like us, or let's say you're on the in a training camp or on the mat with a tiny 12-year-old kid that really wants to get into it because he's watching a lot of TV. Where do you get your kicks? Where do you realize like, okay, the impact is greater here or here? How do you help people? Like what's the most enlightening help that you give people? Is it professional people, or is it these youngsters that start coming in and wanting to learn the appreciation for the sport and everything?
My biggest kick now is that I can walk in, sit the president down of various networks, and tell them about my passion of martial arts and the television properties I'm creating to help spread that message. My passion now is to, sit down with the, highest level guys of sports and try to elevate martial arts. And I have the brand to do that. They're like, oh, well, Frank's here. You gotta let him in. It's just, I've been that guy for 20 years, so it's just sort of undeniable. Everyone knows, why I'm coming in, what's going on, and what I stand for.
Okay. Another question I had real quick. Sorry, I'm asking a lot of questions here, but I'm very curious. So, one of the things I wanted to ask you, like you're having that world champion mentality, right? And you bring it nearly every day. I guess after being incarcerated, you realize like this is where I want to go. I am destined for this. I mean, how many times, percentage-wise, right, were you in front of an opponent and you realize this guy's not here for the same reasons I am, and I'm going to make this happen? Like, how many times did you see that in someone's eye? I mean, for as smart as you are, you must be able to decode someone that's in it for the right reasons and someone that's in it just for the money, right?
Yeah, 100%.
So you can see that pretty quickly, right? In the way they act, the way they talk, maybe.
You can see intention. You can see realness. That's why, I used to just hang out in the biggest meetings in the world. I had no business being there, but I wanted to know what the experience was. So when I was there with a billionaire asking for $100 million, I didn't feel weird about it. So I would just hang out. People were like, what's he doing? I'd be like, well, it's Frank Shamrock. He's the toughest guy in the world. Nobody realized I was building up an experience and an appreciation and understanding. So when I was in that position, I didn't feel uncomfortable. It's about putting yourself in those crazy positions where you are deathly afraid, and it's the scariest thing in the world. That's where I get my kick. Before it was facing people, now it's, trying to convince the president of a network to, open the coffer and let me do whatever I want.
Nice.
Amazing.
Rick and Young, got any questions?
Yeah, well, so Frank, man, first of all, man, it's good to see you, man. It's been a long time, man. Man, I miss training with you. So for the viewers, when Frank used to be here in San Jose, I used to train under him. And when I say that, let me just say I was never a professional fighter. For me, it was more for the workout. And Frank was always a good coach, a good mentor, just an awesome guy. I mean, I remember people used to, the kids used to just come. I remember watching and seeing the kids come in just because they knew Frank trained there, and Frank always took the time to just talk with them, and very humble guy. But and I don't know what questions you guys asked him already, but first of all, Frank, how's life? And I know you're in Southern California now.
Yeah, I
And,
moved down to LA and retired for a couple of years.
Yeah, you've been retired, but now are you still training though?
No, I train on the mountains, and I train in meditation, and I do a lot of community kind of brainstorming and social work to see, kind of ideas for change and stuff like that. But yeah, I can't go into gyms because everyone wants to wrestle and beat me up. Well, it hurts and everything. I'm like a normal dude now, so I gotta avoid that.
No, I know what it's like because I think you and I are you and I are the same age, and I know my body is just, as I get older, it's just harder to do stuff. So I can completely relate. But yeah, now have you guys asked him about his show?
Well, we're gonna get to that.
Okay.
Hey, let's get
Uh,
to that right now, man. Why not? All right,
yeah.
let's talk about that real quick. I asked on the YouTube comment feed real quick. Does anyone have any questions for Frank? So we're gonna see what pops up here in a second. But yeah, Frank. So what's the next step? I mean, obviously, chapters of people's, your own your own much larger book, right? But you have a life book. This is the way I like to look at it, right? And every
Yeah.
time you turn a corner, a different chapter starts opening. And sometimes the chapter can close unfavorably, and sometimes it can close with some big learnings, right? So you are about to you're trying to open up a new chapter of this big book of yours, right?
Yeah.
And what does that entail, and how much of it is a challenge to you, or is the entire deal sealed already? Like, talk to us about that a little bit.
Well, I think the biggest challenge was actually changing my image and brand so that people would sort of see me as a producer, type role. Because as soon as I start talking, everybody's like glassed over in their face, and they're like, "Oh, he's the greatest fighter in the world," and you just don't really get very far. So it took me a while to change people's perception of my brand here in Hollywood. But once we did that, yeah, now it's a different story. Now it's like, wow, I've been able to put the creativity that I used in fighting to work in television producing, and it's just the results have been just extraordinary. So I'm really, really excited about it. And it was really hard for me as an athlete and as a, just as a person to sort of switch that role, because it's like you get used to being that guy. It's easy,
Yeah.
it's easy to be that guy after you're, that guy, because that guy's awesome. But to be in a new role and to be, in a managerial and decision-making role and also to be the visionary leading that stuff, it was a bit challenging. But I thoroughly enjoy it. I really think it's about, and to your, to your sellers and to all entrepreneurs, if you don't face that fear and deal with it with practical, solutions, applications, review in real ways, then you just get consumed by it, and that's why people stop and get paralyzed, and that's why people don't succeed, is because they're afraid, and they're afraid to take a chance, and then they're afraid of rejection, they're afraid of a million things. But here's what I learned about fighting: you're afraid of somebody punching you in the head, and you stand right there and you go, all right, punch me in the head and let's deal with this. Because the minute you do that, everything's done. It loses its power, and then you can seriously deal with what it is. You know what I mean? And that's where most people are going, well, I'm going to get punched in the head. Oh no, that's it. If you get into business, you're going to get your business ass kicked. That's just the way business is. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. And it's like if you're, as in martial arts, if you cower and go, oh, that's it, I told you, that I'm done, then you're done. And you will not be successful. But if you just keep going on, continuing to learn incremental, small business, steps, advice, networking, you will, organically, incrementally grow your brand over a term and your business until you quit. And then it just goes like this, and then it's done. And most people, all the success is great, and then the minute they take one on the chin, the minute there's some failure, then it's like, whoa, maybe I don't know what it's all about. And you see it in fighting, and you see it in business all the time. And a real businessman, millionaire, penny, zero, are always having the same intention. It's like, let's go for it. Let's rock it. And that's the common thread I see with all my billionaire friends, all my millionaire friends, all my visionary friends. They believe in who they are. Thoroughly vision is defined. And then they're like, yes, let's do that. I'll put money on it. I'll put time on it. I believe it.
Okay. So being who you are now, you must get all sorts of opportunities tossed your way. I mean, let's look at the past 10 years, for example. You've had many things tossed your way, right? And
yeah.
Are you the kind of person that wants to entertain a large portion of those, or do you seek the one that's exactly got the same mantra as you do, and you go with that one because you think that's the best bet? How do you kind of go about your business deals in the past 10 years? Like, what do you have someone helping you say, like, this is the direction you need to go, Frank? Or are you the person saying, I want to go in that direction even though my, whatever publicist or whoever says this, like, I need to go there? Like, how do you take care of maybe knowing where you need to go, but maybe the opportunity is the present opportunity steers you away from where you want to go? Have you ever dealt with that before?
I have, which is why if your core is defined, you won't veer from it. Because the decision won't make sense to the fabric, and everybody will be like, well, that's weird. That's why when you know where you're going and you spend each morning, making sure you're on path. These things are like, yeah, that doesn't fit. It just doesn't fit. And, 9 out of 10 businesses for me, they don't fit. Because they're a guy going, oh, man, let's hire so-and-so for such and such. It has nothing to do with what my bigger vision is. My bigger vision is clear. I want to help spread martial arts. I want people to understand its value. And if that piece of business is not attaining that with passion, then we got no business being in business together. It's not, it doesn't help any of us. I won't be passionate, and they really won't be passionate at the end of the day.
Hey,
Right.
Frank, could we talk a little bit about, because I know you mentioned meditation, and I've actually been getting into it myself lately, and I've been noticing a lot of really positive effects from it. And I was always the type of person who thought it was always a lot of wishy-washy type of stuff. But I've actually been doing it, and I've been thinking clearer. I've been more calm, and I've always had difficulties with anxiety and getting worked up and kind of being like a worrywart. And it's been really subsiding a lot. Like it's only been a few weeks, and I've been noticing like these amazing effects with meditation. And it may be hard to relate to for anyone out there who's never done it. But Frank, could you talk on meditation, how it's helped you, what effects you've kind of endured with it?
For sure, yeah. Meditation is a cornerstone to, my balanced sort of, approach to life. And it came organic for me. I was fighting people in a freaking cage and scared out of my wits. And the only way to have a good sleep at night was to meditate, was to disassociate my mind and try to relax it. And the better and better I got at it, the more and more value I saw. So yeah, it's what I realized is, look, your brain's just a computer. And if you let it run the whole time and you don't organize and structure and calm it down and defrag it, if you don't use it like a computer should be used, it will fall apart on you. You will have anxieties. You will have these things that don't allow you to function properly because your computer will be heating up, overloading, too much information. It won't be still. It won't be calm. And when you start thinking about your body that way, you have to meditate. If you want a clear mind, if you want to see that vision, if you want to be a true entrepreneur and you're not meditating, I don't see how the two go hand in hand. Because how can you be a visionary if your mind is clouded with everybody's consumer crap? That makes no sense to me.
So Frank, for someone who's always just grinding, just working, when is a good time to just like kind of just walk away and say, you know what, let me meditate, let me relax a bit. Like, what's a good point? Because I see people like just work their asses off, and then they just break down.
Yeah.
It stresses them out.
Are they working?
Working? Yeah.
Working themselves to death.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like most people stay busy. You know what I mean? Most people create lots of energy, and then there's a few people that make monumental movements in very short periods of time. Have you noticed that? So those are the guys that aren't afraid. Those are the guys that aren't, they're like, hey, punch me in the head. Let's see what happens. Instead of having 6 doctors dissect it and talk about it and figure it out in a committee and all these other things. You can cut right to it with business, with all these things. If you just kind of say, let's go. And here's what I found in business. If you cut right to the chase, and you trust somebody, you can get business done at the snap of a finger. When you don't, it's a 6-month negotiation that ends up with weirdness.
So do you? We got a question from eBay Pereiro, who is actually, he follows me on Twitter quite a lot, and we talk behind the scenes. It says, Frank, nice bookshelf behind you. Says, could you recommend a good book for us hustlers and entrepreneurs?
Yeah, I would read books that focus on personal development because it doesn't matter how much money you have. If you're a douchebag, you're going to lose all your money. How much money you have, if you're not helping people, everyone's going to eventually hate you, and you're going to have a sour life. So it's also about, while you're helping yourself, you're supposed to be helping all these other people. And if you do that process, you will literally become so successful because everybody else will be successful with you. And there's a way to do that. But it takes, discipline, and it takes, personal development, and it takes, measured development through your whole life, because if you start out like a douchebag, 20 years later, you'll just be a better douchebag. And no one's going to like you. But if you start out with these good intentions, and hey, you learn, you go up and down. If you stick to your guns and you stand for something, then people say, wow, he has integrity. Wow, he has this, he has that. And then it's different. Then you can sit down at the snap of a finger on a napkin. You can do $1 million deal.
That's good advice, man.
Yeah.
So hopefully eBay Pereiro, that answers your question. But I guess I'll go deeper into that question real quick. What's one book that resonates in your head that has to be maybe one of your favorite books of all time that you just go, you think about it, and you're like, that book changed my life, or it's really, really echoes in my head when I hear that name or someone talks about that one book.
I like the Book of Five Rings.
The Book of Five Rings?
Yeah.
Okay.
The Musashi book. And
Okay.
it's really just on warriors, concepts and codes, but they're all the same, approaches towards business and intention and sales, and they're all the same thing.
Yeah. Have you found yourself, okay, obviously you're a world champion fighter. Is there any point that you had to make a transition into not a salesperson, but I mean, a fighter is very good at fighting, right? And a salesperson is extremely good at selling. But sometimes, to get your point across, sometimes you have to sell that point. Did you ever have to learn that after, or where did you learn the confidence of a pitch, or the how to get people's attention and then keep it there and then sell them on a thought and then revisit that later? Did that come naturally to you, or is that something that you had to be taught after you were a fighter and you go, okay, to make this even a bigger thing with the general population, I got to have an idea and I got to sell it to a network. I got an idea, sell it to a book, right? Like, how did that kind of work? How do you become a salesperson like that?
For me, it was an evolution through martial arts teaching. So one of the core tenets of my martial art was that to really learn it well, you have to teach it. So the minute I started learning it, I started teaching it, and that articulation, that ability to sort of feel how people need to learn, and to feel, an instant reaction and interaction with people, both in the cage and then as a teacher. I was able to take those two experiences and really, understand people. And that's what selling is. Selling is about understanding your audience, understanding your product, and being passionate about it. And once I understood what everybody wanted, easy to give it to them. They wanted the legend, so we, make the legend. That's what people wanted, and that was the hero and the archetype that people, dreamt of.
Right.
And one thing I'll just say is that Frank was a very good teacher. He was very technical. I mean, if he really took his time. I mean, even if you were just a beginner, if you just walked in, he would break down the techniques. It was never about hurry, we gotta go on to the next one. He really did break it down. For me, the hard part was always the damn warm-ups. That was the hard part for me.
And the warm-up.
Oh my gosh, man, the warm-ups would kill me. But the techniques were cool, man. But the warm-ups always killed me, man. That was great.
Oh, Young, this guy.
Hey, I tell you what, man. For Frank, for being as big as he is, gosh, man, he is so flexible, man. He's so nimble, just very light on his feet. But yeah, that's what killed me was the warm-ups, man. Doing the rolls and oh gosh, the shrimp, oh jeez.
Yeah.
What? Okay, hold on real quick. Frank, tell us what the shrimp is real quick. The people on YouTube land.
The shrimp is when somebody's on top of your hips or in the side mount position, and you push on them and you pull your butt out and your hips out. You end up in this kind of shrimp-like position. Looks kind of.
That's funny.
Yeah.
I know.
Very effective, though.
That's what
I think I know what you're talking about. I've seen it on TV a bazillion times. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool. It's not a very favorable position to be in at all, is it?
No. It's you're in a bad position. You're trying to advance to a better one.
Okay. Wow. Talk to us about the similarities between MMA and let's say chess, or is it a little bit more vicious than like a chess game? Chess, everyone knows about chess, but it requires a lot of advanced thinking, timing and this and that. Talk to us about MMA as a game, right? Not as a sport, but more of a game. And how did you pace yourself through that game to become the winner? Was it more of a I know I die in cardio in about the third round, or what did you know about yourself in order to play to win? You know, what were your weaknesses? I mean, everyone's got some, but what were yours, and how did you play it against your opponent to win the match, basically? Like, on most matches, was it a pacing thing? Was it, you know, working on the, you know, the mounts, the dismount? What was it for you?
Well, so my was that I was deathly afraid of getting hit, and then I was really terrible at wrestling. So I never really told anybody those things because they don't really need to know that. But yeah, I was always like, oh my God, I hope he doesn't hit me. And if he just wrestles me, they'll figure this out in 2 seconds because I was a terrible wrestler. But my skill was that I came at a time in the sport where they just didn't have the tools, and they didn't understand they didn't have the tools. It was like a business, an industry that was sort of underdeveloped, and no one had really brought the right components, to complete the art form yet. So, as an entrepreneur, as a student, as an athlete, it came around at a time when there was a deficit of information. And because I was a nerd and I wrote everything down and I, created theories and diagrams and, and I planned every single day, the truth eventually emerged that there's huge holes in the style, and if you provide an athletic application to this, you're going to annihilate these people. And the minute I tested that application, I had instant results. And then, I just kept testing it for, a couple decades. I just kept messing everybody up. But it was about a studied approach. We came from a world of machismo and toughness, and I've never been in a training session where someone of that era broke out a notebook. I was the only one ever. But I didn't understand it, and I was deathly afraid, and I was a student. So I took in information differently, and I was able to retain it and process it differently. I was just a forward thinker in the industry. That's all. And anyone can do it in any industry. Once you realize the weaknesses, and once you realize what's lacking, if you can provide that, then you become an industry changer, and that's what I want.
You kind of sound like Bill Nye the Science Guy when it comes to MMA.
Yeah, no, I'm a total dork. But I'm also a super athlete. So the minute I was able to, figure it out and have the trial and error and experience, and this is where young entrepreneurs, you need to pitch, you need to practice. I used to shadow box every day, everywhere, for 10 years, for 20, 30 minutes. And it wouldn't matter if we were at the park or at the mall or the supermarket, or it doesn't matter. Because the most important thing to me was being the greatest fighter in the world. But that's a different focus than most people who are going, wow, someone's going to see me at the mall doing this stupid, footwork. Or well, what are they going to think if I trip and fall while I'm trying to do this move? And it's like, who cares? I'm going to become the greatest fighter in the world. So in order to do that, every day I know I have to train my feet. And it's just, when you're an entrepreneur, if you've got to get that pitch and feel the passion, if you're a salesman, if you're whatever you are, you need to do that until it oozes from you, because then it's undeniable. As soon as you start talking, people are like, this guy believes it through and through. It's like you have to believe. And that's where you get a good sale, a good relationship, a good presentation.
Yeah, I like all the stuff you're talking about, man. It really echoes with, some of the things that we've done with our professional lives. Rakin, for example, creating products that he believes in, that he's known for out there in YouTube land and Gumroad land, in Amazon land, and through my channel, which just went over 10,000 subscribers. And then we have Yang over here, who's got incredible knowledge with this kind of arbitrage opportunity with Amazon, and we're trying to tell him, go make a guide. Like, you obviously know so much, and you're helping all the beginners in our room about this one thing. Build something, right? I mean, don't let it go to waste. I mean, he loves helping people out, but we're encouraging him, hey, build something that goes, it spreads while you're sleeping, and so people are learning while you're sleeping, and you are affecting a much wider kind of thing. Was that one of the best things about maybe creating that dummies book, or the other book was the fact that maybe while you were sleeping, people were rifling through your YouTube videos, and they're also reading your book now, and it's just spreading the awareness for MMA? Was that one of the best feelings from making those products?
Totally, and that that feedback I didn't really get instantly. I get all this stuff from social media, but it's different when you 20 years later meet the 10-year-old son of one of your students, and that's 10-year-old boy is telling you the principles that you taught his father. Wow. That's when it really sat into me, and I was like, wow, okay, now we're doing now we're doing the good thing, because now it's truly spreading. and that's why television and stuff is so exciting for me. The written medium is lovely and everything, but it's like the ability to control that medium and to tell, powerful, stories like that, or inspiring stories. That's where I want to end up.
Nice. That's got legacy written all over it, man. Just so you know, I can see that. We're gonna go into the comment feed real quick. I'm gonna try to get some rapid fire questions your way real quick, Frank. You guys have any questions for him real quick while I look up these questions, or
No,
I can go straight into it. It's not a big deal.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's something kind of cool from Malu Jimmy from Houston, Texas. I met this guy in real life. Really cool guy. Frank, initially MMA had a pretty negative perception in the public eye and with TV networks. What was it that changed that perception around? Was it just a matter of ignorance?
At the time, it was ignorance, and then the first marketing campaign to the UFC was, basically 8 men enter and 1 man leaves. It was, the marketing was very ghoulish, and someone's going to die, and it was a spectacle that was designed for pay-per-view. It was never supposed to be a sport. So I was at the forefront of finding out why the sport was kicked off a cable and brought down to where it was. And at the end of the day, it was, look, it's literally presentation is too much. It's just too much. We need rounds, we need rules, we need all this stuff. And once we did that, it became more socially acceptable. But it was also society. When society started seeing, people getting beheaded on the internet, when society started seeing a level of violence that was, so ubiquitous and so available, it changed its mind on cage fighting. It was like, well, that's not so bad.
That's not true. I mean, I guess you're right. I came out of nowhere.
I was there. I was at the forefront, speaking on behalf of it. And overnight, because of the internet, social media, and the exposure of violence, overnight people were like, yeah, I guess that's not so bad.
No, not bad. That's good. That's a good answer to that question. Another one right here, Frank. Super 3D Flyer says, when it comes to being successful, how important was planning and having a routine in your life in achieving all your goals inside and outside the ring? So his question is a little bit two-part there.
Yeah.
Talking about MMA, and he's talking about your personal life. At what point was your planning and that routine? Is it paramount? Is it just goes above everything? How did you value that planning and that routine in your personal and professional life?
It's the same. If you want to be successful, you have to plan and strategize and attack each and every day. If there's small increments that you build on to build a giant foundation. And the problem is most people don't build the increments. So they're like, when foundation comes along, they got nothing. They got no confidence. They got nothing.
Okay. 3 minutes ago from Alan Atlas. Wow, this is definitely the best Hangout so far. Thank you all. If I may ask Frank, morally and tactically, when does one initiate attack / non-cooperation, and when shall one cooperate and be to the benefit of the group, in business or socially, for example?
Well, I think the idea of one-sided business, or I win, you lose business, I just think it's an old idea now. I think it's sort of past its time. Business to me is about synergizing with like people, who have a shared vision. Business to me is working with people that have the same, moral cloth, or moral, social direction, that have the same sort of social vibe. Because at the end of the day, what are we doing? We're making money, we're changing the world, we're helping people. So for me, and part of being who I am is I want to be in that position. I want to be like, no, you can't do that. That's not right. Let's do this.
Okay. Sumaraba says, question for Frank. In any business or field, some people seem to be students of the game. They have great business sense, and they're able to utilize their charisma and connection with the market to further their success. And in parentheses, he put Ronda Rousey and Conor McGregor come to mind. Do you see yourself as a student of the game, and what does that statement really mean to you?
Yeah, I don't think those guys are a student of the game as much as they are they're experiencing opportunity. The sport has is devoid of stars. So they're the two people with the most talent that present the best. But business is a game. Fighting is a game, and you need to look at it that way. But for me, it's not about winning all the time. Because if I win all the time, no one's going to want to. It's like being a kid. No one's going to want to play the games with me. No one's going to want to play ball. If I always win, all the money, they'll just take their ball and go home. So for me, it's really about, I want to hang out with my friends. But if I'm taking advantage of them in business, they're not going to want to hang out with me. So it's always, to me, it's like, okay, how can we make this group better? And as we add people to the group, to the business circle, to my, networking, it's like, what do they add and how do they make it better? Because if they don't, we're going to invite you to leave at some point.
Yeah, that's good business advice. So hopefully that answers that person's question. And one of the last questions of the night here, Tortoise Picker, being a fighter, did you ever feel like you were working for someone, UFC, or do you enjoy more what you do now?
I enjoyed competing and I enjoyed training and I enjoyed the accolades of competition, but I never wanted to be a fighter. It was the worst thing I could, I wanted to be a champion, but once I started training, I was like, wow, this is retarded, this is ridiculous. It's so dangerous, it's so, it's so damaging. I wanted to be a successful provider for my family, and do something important for society. That it's led me here is just a blessing.
That's good. So I think that's one of the last questions we have here. We know you're a busy man, so we always like to stick to our time promises that we gave you. I think, yep, that is definitely the last question. Now, I do have one question, but someone asked it in the feed. If Young had a fighter name, Frank, what would it be?
Oh. I don't know. We'd have to hang out like a little bit more, like just in like with fighting on our minds.
Yeah, yeah.
To me,
Hey, Frank.
It's like a total immersion experience. Where you're
I do want to share a quick story, and I don't know if you remember this, but Frank had come out with this was about 10 years ago. Frank had come out with these instructional series videos, and you guys were having a contest. Remember that?
Yeah, yeah.
And I had bought these videos, and I had no intention. I mean, I was already training with Frank, and I had no intention that I didn't even realize they were having this contest. So I just entered the contest, and basically, I got this email back saying, "Hey, you won the grand prize. We're gonna fly you out to Las Vegas, put you up in the Rio to train with Frank Shamrock." I was like, "Is this for real?" And I went to class. I was like, "Frank, I won this contest, man. Is this real?" He goes, "Dude, you won that?" I'm like, "You remember that?"
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
That was really awesome. Yeah, that was good stuff.
That was fun.
We've done all kinds of awesome stuff, man. That's the beauty of being, in a leadership position in martial arts. You can just have so much fun and make so much of an impact.
It was fun.
Well, cool. I think this wraps up our little interview with Frank Shamrock. Frank, before we go, how can people connect with you further? Let's talk about your Facebook, your Twitter, your 2 books. Let's hold those up to the screen again. And any other thing that you want to plug in, how can people connect with you after this interview?
You can find me on all social media at Frank Shamrock. This is my cool book. I wish I looked like that, today. I don't. And you really want to know about MMA, like this is like, you can't get better than this one. This is really cool, the MMA for Dummies.
That's unbelievable, man.
Yeah, and I like participating with fans and hanging out and everything, and I'm really working this next year on some new user experiences, some 3D technology, some hologram technology through iPhone, stuff like that. I really think that there's like a new level of teaching martial arts and like user participation that's just beyond what's going on right now. So I'm kind of engrossed in that, and who knows. But I'll see you guys. Just check me out on TV, and then hit me up and say hi when you see me.
Okay, man. Well, best of luck with your future endeavors, and don't be a stranger. We'll contact you one day in the future to see how it's all going. But guys, thanks for joining the Green Room Hangout for an hour on your valuable Tuesday night. We understand you could be doing a bazillion things tonight, but you came here to join, and I hopefully you found some good information with our guest. And we always want to surprise you guys out there, so it could be a completely different weird guest next time. But this is one of the most interesting guests that I know we've had so far. Frank, thank you so much for being on our show. And I know I speak on the entire behalf of the Green Room, the people there that you see on the screen with us. We will catch you guys later on Green Room Hangout number 35. Till then, thanks for watching this show. Bye.
Bye.
Peace.